right, welcome back to the PozCast. Thank you for joining. So, Bobby, last week we did Inception. Had a great time. Ben was a fantastic guest. And kind of one of the reasons we did it was we were thinking we have not done a Nolan movie up to that point. It's like, what are we doing? So that we went into Inception, which got us to thinking, hey, is there other people that we haven't done? What are we waiting on? The first word, first name out of your mouth was Denzel. So we're like, let's go. Let's do a Denzel movie. Now, what's interesting about Denzel, we haven't done a movie of his, but he appears on every podcast other than you and I, Bob. He makes an appearance every podcast because naturally, as the listeners know, I'll ask you, hey, how does this movie compare to Man on Fire, or what would John Creasy do in this situation? But we're not doing Man on Fire, but we're doing The Equalizer, which is probably Man on Fire's stepbrother, wouldn't you say? I mean, how would you describe The Equalizer?
It's the same movie. It's the same exact movie. It's a little bit lighter, if you can say that, about a guy who's going around and just killing everybody. Man on Fire is a little bit darker. I can't wait to do that movie. You're going to have to go put yourself in a nice place afterwards and before so you don't get sucked into that world. But Denzel is maybe the best movie star of all time. I don't think that's being dramatic. Look through his filmography. One thing that struck me while looking at his filmography, and this is how you know he's a movie star, every movie he's in, the movie poster is just his face. It's just amazing. He can carry an entire movie. It's Denzel. He's some of the actors, some of the people that are in our world, in our sporting world, where it's one name. You say the word Denzel, you know exactly who we're talking to. He plays a lot of the same characters. This and Creasy and Man on Fire is very similar, but man, what a breadth of talent and characters that he has played. One thing as I look through his filmography, I wonder, could he ever do like a Dumb and Dumber movie? Imagine him with John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell. That's what I want from Denzel. I'll be right there in the front row for that one.
Yeah, I am kind of looking. We're going to spend some time going through it. It is dense, to say. Like, this dude's got a lot of movies, and there's not very many bad ones, but you're right. I do not see a comedy in there. I don't know if this guy would go down that road. It's interesting. Look, he's on the Mount Rushmore. But one thing I think he's got locked up, Bob, is this guy the coolest guy on camera? Like, on film, is there anybody cooler than Denzel?
Jeez, I wasn't prepared for this one. There's a lot of cool people. I mean, De Niro's pretty cool. I mean, he's in the running. Let's do that. We'll litigate that and then re-litigate that down the road. But that's a good call.
Yeah, I would think maybe like him or Pitt,
Pitt's
like it's just kind of
cool.
like who just oozes coolness. And it's definitely
Clooney's pretty cool.
He is. So Bob, we're celebrating a 10-year anniversary of The Equalizer, literally September of 2014. This movie came out. So happy 10-year anniversary to The Equalizer, directed by Antoine Fuqua, probably best known for Training Day. We'll talk about his Hall of Fame plaque later on. As you mentioned, Denzel is in this movie, and then just a bunch of other people. I mean, we get President Whitmore kind of makes an appearance, David Harbour, who's Hopper from Stranger Things, and then just some other people that are in it. But it's really just Denzel just kind of running this thing. This thing did better. It probably speaks to Denzel. Did pretty good at the box office, $192 million. It was number 45 worldwide. Big movies that year, Bob, in 2014. The Transformers. I know you're a big Transformers guy from back in the day. Yeah, it did really well. One of the Hobbits, which I was more of a Lord of the Rings guy. Yeah. Obviously read The Hobbit, but I was like, all right, I've kind of been there, done that, Peter Jackson. And then Guardians of the Galaxy was a big hit and a pretty fun movie, good soundtrack to that. Bob, movies from 2014 that will make an appearance on this podcast, or maybe already have. Interstellar, Bob, celebrating a 10-year anniversary.
I don't know how we didn't do that. Yeah.
Edge of Tomorrow, which we talked about on the Tom Cruise podcast. Whiplash, which is just an incredible
I'm looking at it right
movie.
now.
And then Bob, John Wick also came out in 2014. We've covered John Wick. And John Wick and Equalizer, fairly similar, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say they're the same exact movie. What are you talking about? There's, one of the Hall of Fame plaques is What did I name it? I named it, troubled single guy badass movies. Yeah, and Wick's in there. Trust me, we'll be talking about that.
This movie, it might shock you, did not win any Academy Awards, although I would not have had a problem with Denzel winning because he should win every time he's on there. But the best picture in 2014, Bobby, The Birdman, and it's a real long title, but it was that Michael Keaton movie. Did you ever see it?
No.
I've seen it like on an airplane, like here and there, and I just kind of get bored with it.
I think that's exactly what I did. I was like, all right, I should watch this because I've heard of it's good, but maybe 15 minutes and I just completely lost interest. I as much as I love movies, I tell you what, if you want to go on an offshoot of life here, Mark, which I've always told you, we'll have phone calls, talk about absolutely nothing for 30 minutes. And I say, that's a podcast. I don't know if anybody thinks it's funny, but I'm going to do it right now. I think I'm getting a little crotchety. Here's what I don't want to hang out with anybody I don't want to hang out with. Is that crotchety? Meaning I just don't want to be around somebody I don't want to be around. I've gotten to the point in my life where if we're going somewhere, I just want to do it with the people I want to do it. Fast drivers in Atlanta. Guys will cut me off and do this. And then what do I do? I'll just race to catch up with them. What am I going to do when I catch up with them? Then I ride their bumper. The worst thing, the best thing that's going to happen is nothing. The worst is he slams on his brake, he gets out and he kills me. I'm just getting very angry at people. The presidential debate didn't help. That whole discourse doesn't help. I got to stop listening to political. I know who I'm voting for. I need to stop listening to all this because it just makes me angry. Mark, am I the crotchetiest person that you know? Hall of Fame plaque.
Bob, I'm glad that you finally realized this. There is no shock as to why we get a lot of Bob's beef replies on the text. You've got a tremendous amount of beef that goes out there.
I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. I don't. But I am. What are you going to do?
Well, look, part of it is self-realization. So congratulations to you, Bobby.
Yep.
Nice job. Look, if you've tuned in to hear about Queen Latifah's The Equalizer, you've on the wrong podcast.
Talk about crotchety. People keep telling me it's good. There's no chance it's good. I've never watched 1 second of it. There's no chance it's good. I don't know if that.
No, I remember when I think it previewed during a Super Bowl. It was like, all right, we got all these people watching. And I think I called you or texted you immediately and said, I will never watch 1 second of that. I mean, based on what we've seen with Robert McCall, why they thought Queen Latifah would be good, I have no idea. But what shocked me, Bob, and I don't remember this was a TV show in the mid to late 80s.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Do you have any recollection of that? The Equalizer was a TV show. Obviously, Denzel did this movie, and he did Equalizer 2 and Equalizer 3. I'm sure I've saw him, Bob, but I don't really have a lot of memory other than the first one.
Yeah, no, you've seen both of them. The third one, he's over there in Italy fighting these. There's some really classic scenes in Equalizer 3 as well as 2. But as we've always said on this podcast, I think the OG, other than the Christopher Nolan Batman series, is usually the one we're at least going to do first on the podcast, right? I don't know if it's the best one, but that's the one we're going to do first.
I would agree. Kind of similar to Wick. I think the Wicks have almost gotten better in some respect, but the first one is the only one that we're really going to do. All right, you kind of brought up Denzel, one of the best actors of our generation. I think he's probably the coolest guy on screen. His filmography is long, dense. I mean, this guy rarely produces a bad movie, which gives me hope, Bob, for Gladiator 2, which Gladiator, to no one's shock, is very, very high on our list. They've got the sequel coming out. Sequels in general don't do great. Famously, they're usually bad, right? I mean, that's why you can name off the ones that are good quite rapidly.
So there are people that have seen it, Mark. Maybe on the podcast we listened to, and they said it's good. They said it's great, actually.
Yeah, we do listen to the same podcast. Our guy Fennessy said, get ready. So that got me a little excited. Now, look, I don't always agree with his tastes in film, but I think he was out in Telluride, right, where they got a film festival going on and people were seeing it. So that gives me some optimistic hope. But what would you say, Bob? I'm more nervous about Gladiator 2 than I am excited, just because I don't want it to ruin the first one. And it shouldn't. I don't know why I would care, but where does your excitement level stand?
It's very strange. I'm not that excited to see it. I'll see it. I'm not that excited. I think just the expectations are very, very low. I don't know if it goes to the point of nervous, but I know what you're saying, where they could just screw it up. But Gladiator is almost as good as it gets, if not as good as it gets. So there's only one way to go from this. And I'm not a big, what's the guy's name in that movie?
Pedro Pascal.
I'm not a big Pedro Pascal guy, so that kind of pisses me off. He's in it, but whatever.
Sorry, Mr. Pascal.
Yeah.
Much like Clooney, who you mentioned is in that cool category, good-looking guy, Denzel starts in TV. I don't know if you remember St. Elsewhere. I do kind of. I mean, from 82 to 88, he's on that. It's hard to believe that Denzel and Clooney, these guys started in TV. It kind of goes backwards now. You start in movies, and then you go to TV. But then he goes into movies, right, Bob? And right out of the gate, he gets Glory, gets the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, which is a really, really good movie. I encourage you to see it if you have not. Malcolm X, he follows it up with, which a lot of when you think of Denzel, it's kind of him looking like Malcolm X to some degree. Philadelphia and the Pelican Brief. Crimson Tide. Bob, how good of a movie is Crimson Tide with Gene Hackman? He Got Game in 98, Mr. Shuttlesworth. 2000, Remember the Titans. Now, we did Rudy not that long ago, and Rudy's on a list of the best 5 or best 10 sports movies of all time. Remember the Titans do it for you, Bob? Would that be in a top 10-ish? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's John Creasy on a football field. He's just, it's all the same mannerisms, all the same way that he talks to people. Yeah, Remember the Titans is way up there. Way up there.
2001, look, that was a long time ago, but maybe this was the apex for Denzel, Training Day, which I think when we get to Hall of Fame plaques, this is going to be one that you talk about. He wins the best actor there. But then maybe for you, Bob, and all of our listeners, in 2004, Man on Fire. The aforementioned John Creasy makes an appearance, and he kind of goes a little dark after this, Bob. You get Inside Man, which is a really cool heist, bank robbery movie. American Gangster with Russell Crowe, which is just really, really good in 2007. Unstoppable in 2010. They're on that train. 2012 Flight.
That's an intense
I think we had a worst pilot in movie history. I think you had put that out there for one of them.
Worst,
and then we kind of peek it off here.
Worst drunk pilot is the Independence Day podcast.
That's right. And Randy Quaid won, I think.
So.
Did Randy Quaid
so.
win? And then 2014, we finalized it with the Equalizer. Now he's done some other Equalizer, but he's kind of become just this revenge guy. He's like the Charles Bronson of our era. But as I just and I didn't include every movie, but there's really no bad ones. I mean, the guy's done a bang up job.
He's incredible. There's nothing more you could say that he's in the argument for the greatest actor of all time. And that's not being too dramatic. He's as good as it gets. More like this on Prime. I actually so just in principle, I watched this on TBS on demand, just on principle, which includes 7 5-minute commercials, and it's the most annoying thing ever. But I wasn't going to pay the $3. I wasn't going to do it on principle. I said, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm watching the free movie. Which was quite annoying. I don't think I'll do that again. It was too annoying. Although it gave me.
Hey, so on that topic, Bob, is there a movie we could do? Look, these movies are on our list for a reason because we've seen them a bunch of times, but you have to rewatch them under this guise of taking notes on all this stuff, and we look at them a little differently. But is there a movie you could do sight unseen?
Tommy Boy. I could do Tommy Boy right now. I can do all the quotes. I can do everything. That's the first one that comes to mind. A Few Good Men. I know I could do Few Good Men. I don't claim to know every single dialogue perfect. And for our podcast, I want to do it perfect because I love that movie. But those are probably the two. What about you?
Man, I think I could do Anchorman, but I would be afraid I'd miss some of the quotes.
There's too many quotes, like Caddyshack. There's just too many quotes.
Yeah. But maybe we'll do that one day. We'll just go, all right, we're going to roll the dice. Which movie comes up, we got to do it.
Well,
and then we redo it.
Yeah, we redo it. Again, we're trying to get a little creative here. I texted Jobe. He didn't text me back. I called him. He didn't call me back. I wanted him to sit on this podcast. I don't even want to tell him. Just sit there. I don't even know if he's seen this movie. It'd be better if he didn't. He just sits in that third square and just makes up stuff and just is funny, Jobe. I think this podcast has some legs, Mark. I was thinking about this too. me and you have talked about this. Like when we tell people, or when we have a guest that does the podcast, they're like, Bob, Mark, I mean, this was hours of work. Like, what do you guys do? Like, how do you guys have the time? In reality, it's one movie with 30 more, it's a couple hours. No one questions if I go on a golf trip and spend 17 hours doing absolutely nothing but hitting a white ball around, but they are really concerned that I spent an hour and 45 minutes doing a podcast and preparing for it. I mean, they are really concerned. Yet another beef. More like this on You Can Guess, obviously on Prime. All the Equalizers, Man on Fire, Training Day, John Wick, Book of Eli, Taken, Nobody, which is actually, I watched like 30 minutes of that. It's pretty funny. I don't know the guy's name on it. But he's same thing, just a suburban dad who's some, incredible fighter and FBI agent and shooter. Gerard Butler was considered for the Creasy part. I could definitely see him doing this. I told you I'm going to call him Creasy. It's my Hall of Fame plaque. Denzel's Creasy. Maybe I'll screw people up doing that. I'll just say Denzel. But Gerard Butler, could you see Gerard Butler doing the Denzel part here?
Yeah, Gerard Butler, look, he made some bad choices. He tried to be like a rom-com guy. I think they're like, we're going to make this guy into McConaughey. But him in 300 and then him in Den of Thieves, he's great at this. He's a big, brute, menacing kind of guy.
What's the, I know this. What's the one with Jamie Foxx? Law Abiding Citizen. He's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Very, very similar. I almost called him John Creasy. Denzel, we're going to go through all the ways he killed people in this movie. I think I did that for one other movie. But he never used a gun. In the very first killing scene with the $9,800, he manipulates the guy's arm to shoot. Didn't use one bullet. Now, he used a nail gun, famously. I got a lot of questions on how that nail gun goes off. Yet another movie with awesome helicopters. They're sitting on that woman's porch and just the helicopter comes in. Mark, would you ever get in a helicopter? I think you did in the Grand Canyon, right? Would you ever get in another one?
Every time I tell people that I've done that, they say, what are you doing? Like, don't do it. So I didn't think of it at the time. Now, this was years ago, pre-kids, and it was an unbelievable trip. And to take off and swoop down into the canyon in a helicopter was incredible, but I guess I'm not doing it anymore.
I don't know.
We're shocked that I did it.
We're trying to decide where to go. We're going to do another national park because we loved it so much. I think we're thinking Grand Canyon. And I'm like, I know it's got to be expensive, but should I do that? I know my kids would love it. I don't think Mary would step foot in that thing, but I think I got to do it, right?
Well, here's the thing. How else are you getting down in there? Like, as I was there, I'm not taking like a donkey and like kind of hiking down that thing. I mean, I'm sure there's a way down there because not everybody's flying.
I was just going to say, if you Googled how to get to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, it's just one thing, donkey. The AI just says donkey, the only way it gets down there.
Well, you're on foot. But no, I would recommend it. It was a really cool experience.
Okay. All right. So here's one thing that if you open my Google right now, as I was searching Hall of Fame plaques, I had it. And I opened up the internet, and in the search bar was teenage prostitute movies. I probably wouldn't recommend doing that. Nothing bad came up, but this is a teenage. I mean, she's a teenager. She's young. I was trying to do Hall of Fame plaques for teenage prostitute movies. Not many options, but don't do that on your work phone. No real awards. There were some nominees. It won the NAACP Best Director for Antoine Fuqua. He's Black. Very famously, remember we did this in the last one. I don't know if it's NAACP gave it to Christopher Nolan, who is not African American, which I thought was weird.
Yeah.
But that's really the only award that this movie got.
Well, shame on them. We hereby award a golden schmo. To the Equalizer, courtesy of the PozCast, Bob. All right, let's jump into scenes. Now, I will say, this movie is probably 15 minutes too long. I think the first 30 minutes is a major, major build-up setup. And it is fairly slow, and then we're off to the races. But like we've done First Blood, we've done John Wick. Those movies get to it much, much quicker. There was a massive build-up to this, which maybe, heightens your senses a little bit for the first scene because you know it's coming. But it is a little bit slow. But then we just get scene after scene after scene with Denzel just being Denzel. But Bob, what do you think is the best scene from The Equalizer?
I don't know. I don't know how you. Probably the $9,800 scene is to your point, this is when the movie gets going. $9,800 that's there for a reason. No currency transaction report for stuff for withdrawals under $10,000. Something cool there. He's always thinking, always one step ahead. I don't know how he walks into the most dangerous Russian mob in Boston. He just walks through their restaurant and walks right into the office. I don't know how he's putting skulls in front of people and he just doesn't get thumped. But when he starts turning those skulls and he gets the stopwatch and just does damage, is probably the best scene. What do you think?
Totally agree. I think the anticipation, the buildup. Look, seeing it now, I mean, you're waiting for it, but probably the first time I saw it, you're like, all right, he can do some damage, and he's kind of sizing this group up. And then as he's closing the door, and then locks it, like from the Bronx Tale, "Yous can't leave now,"
he's
like kind of thing. So he's ready.
He studied some guys with OCD. So Denzel's got OCD. Gets to the diner, puts a spoon. So that close lock is his OCD. The timing of everything is the OCD. I think in second place is a very short scene where Teddy comes to Denzel's apartment. I love that. He acts like he's a cop. And Denzel knows exactly who he is. Of course, I was there. She didn't show up. And then when Teddy starts to leave, Denzel's like, "Don't you want to leave me your card?" "Oh, I'm all out of him." And Teddy comes up the stairs to try to intimidate Denzel. And Denzel moves out of his door and just right in his face. Like, it's very, very cool. They know who each other are. So just a pissing contest. And Denzel wins it. And Teddy knows, no matter what he says and all of his cool Russian sayings, he knows he's got some issues with this guy.
Totally. Yeah. I think you picked up on that one really good. You answered one of my questions, Bob. One of my questions was, is Robert on the spectrum? So I guess I didn't see that but you picked that. OCD. So he's definitely something there. Yeah. Cause he's got all these like weird mannerisms.
One dish, clean. Yeah. He studied some OCD folks for the people that had OCD for this, for sure.
Definitely. I think that's clearly is the best one. And then I think they just kind of keep going with his revenge scenes, which I think and there's a lot of good ones, right? But I think that first one where he gets to Slavy is really good. Bob, is this the third movie in a row with not a ton of great quotes?
I think I was going to do a Hall of Fame plaque for best movies with the worst quotes. There's just not many. I mean, I wrote some down, but these are not ones that we use, right? It's I didn't like Robert reads books, Bob watches TV. She's a teenage prostitute. What does she know? I mean, she doesn't know.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that right now. So you are a Robert, but you've never been a Robert to me. You're Bob, Bobby, Boz, like all kind of things, but never Robert. And here we famously have a Robert McCall. And that whole saying right there. Have you ever gone by Robert, Bob? Do you anticipate going by Robert at any point in your life?
No, and it's crazy. So if you go in my office, my name plaque says Robert T. Pozotic. I don't know what it is about banking and finances where you just become a douche. I never said that I wanted Robert T. I never said that I'm Bob Pozotic. Or give me Bob T. I'm never going to be Robert T. I don't have anything against Robert. Funny story, in middle school, my best friends were Bobby LaCitra and Robert Tango. Robert, Bobby, and Bob. Those were my three buddies.
When is that decision made?
Well, I was Bobby growing up, little Bobby baby. You remember my aunts used to call me that, Bobby. And then when I moved to Florida, I wanted to be called Bo. Remember that? I said, Mark, I want to move. When we moved to Florida, I just want to not move to Florida, or when we moved from Naples to Cape Coral, maybe. I said, I'm going to go by Bo. I want to be called Bo. It didn't last. And then it moves to, I don't know how it moves to Bob. I don't think I ever made a conscious decision. And then every single person in my life, other than, your friends, calls me Poz. So there was.
I forgot about the Bo era. That was a great era.
Lily brings it up every once in a while. She gets a cackle out of that. She goes, Bobby, remember when you wanted to call you Bo? I think it was Bo Jackson. It was Bo Jackson was big. Yeah. It was like, it was awesome. But plus Bo's a cool name.
Bo is a cool name. You don't strike me as a Bo. No. That is unbelievable.
No.
That is unbelievable. Have you ever thought of, in that word, look, one of our best guests we've ever had, Mr. M. Kevin Lawhon.
Yeah.
So, Bob, you could technically be R. Thomas Pozzotic. Have you ever thought about
R.
that?
Thomas Pozzotic. Yeah, when you're in financial services, it's just, you have to change your name for some reason. I mean, people are more willing to give me money if they see Robert T than Bob. I get, like she said, Bob watches TV, Robert reads books. Maybe I'm behind the times.
Maybe.
Brick by brick, dollar by dollar, body by body. Obviously, no one ever says that, but it's pretty good. When you pray for rain, you got to deal with the mud. Again, we're never using these quotes.
No, I thought that, when he goes to Whitmore's house, he didn't come for help. He came for permission. Mrs. Whitmore says, I thought that was pretty good. The movie opens with a quote, which I thought was pretty good.
Yes.
Anytime you get Mark Twain, the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. It's a pretty profound statement, right?
Well, and depressing, because haven't found that yet. I mean, but
maybe both of ours was to do this podcast, Bob. Maybe
what?
That's...
You never know. Tens and tens of listeners would agree.
The 10-year anniversary of this movie, Bob. Not a ton of time has passed, but what has held up? I'll get us started here, Bobby. I had the Robert and Bob thing. I mean, it's pretty good that is just a common thing, right? I mean, my name's Mark. There's no longer version of Mark.
Marcus. I call you Marcus.
Yeah, you do occasionally, but that's like an actual different name.
Yeah.
Bobby and Robert is actually the deal. Diners. Bob, I've spent a lot of time in Jersey where there's diners everywhere. Have you ever gone into a good diner?
I have. When I was coaching hoops, I helped a guy coach a team in Long Island a couple summers, and that was the coolest part. I mean, because the reason why I love diners is I don't like breakfast. Like, I'm not a big breakfast food guy, so I love being able to go to a restaurant and order anything I want.
Yeah, they're really good. Russian gangsters, this movie's full of them. I think it works in any movie that you got. The accent, the names is really good. Seeing, I keep calling him Whitmore, Bill Pullman, just a very small part, but I love President Whitmore, seeing him there. Bob, you mentioned helicopters. There's a helicopter in this movie, but that's not the coolest thing that holds up. It's having a front lawn large enough to where a helicopter could land on it and it takes you from and to work. That's incredible.
It's absolutely incredible. We have a client that we manage the 401k, and he sold to private equity. I won't say who it was because obviously there's thousands of people listening, but that's his mode of transportation is a helicopter, and it's like the greatest helicopter you've ever seen. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a baller movie. What else holds up? Secret Skills. This guy's kind of like Jason Bourne. Something's there. He's got this stuff, doesn't look like it. All the guys at Home Mart are trying to figure out what he did prior, and then it unleashes. And then maybe the ultimate thing that holds up is blowing something up and slowly walking away from it.
We'll talk about that scene. I mean, it's basically a nuclear bomb goes off. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible.
And he's like a foot ahead of the debris.
Doesn't affect him
for quite a bit. What else you got, bro?
Yeah, cool guy's not looking at explosions. Watching a movie where the guy's not going to die. It doesn't matter that he's in trouble. It doesn't matter that all the odds are, he's not going to die. I kind of like that. Sitting on piles of money. We'll talk about Andre later, but just that room full of cash. I just don't know if you're a cop, how you don't just slide. I mean, I'm an honorable guy. I try to do the right thing, but we've talked about cops. They're severely underpaid. More about cops here and your friends. How don't you slip this many $100 bills changes your life? I mean, how don't you just slip a couple in there? Explaining to people how they're dying. Your heart rate is going up right now. You're losing blood. In 30 seconds, your eyes are going to go blurry. That's always pretty cool. Telling people to lose weight. McCall just it's okay. To be a security guard, you have to lose weight. That's okay. You can't tell that guy, oh, you can be anything you want to be. Just stay. No, you got to lose weight. You got to telling people what they need to do. A guy who cares. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. If you tell the guy that he doesn't need to lose weight to be a security guard, that's unkind. Telling him he needs to lose weight where the world says that's unkind, that's kind. You got to tell the guy what he's doing. You got to tell the guy what he needs. A cleaner, Teddy didn't clean it, but calling a cleaner is always pretty cool. He does not hold a candle to the wolf. Although the wolf, all he did was just tell him to just rub up some blood. I don't know how much he fixed. Messing with the wrong dude. You already talked about that. You hope for the bully in your school to mess with the wrong dude. He never seems to. Just mess with the wrong dude. And then the last one is, you talked about a diner, but just having your spot. Mary and I without kids were never hey, let's go to the bar after work for a drink and just have one drink. I've never had a spot other than this podcast with you staring at you on a screen. Never had a spot, but having his diner spot is pretty cool.
Dexter's. We had a spot there in Lake Mary. Kind of owned that place.
That was
me, the Gooch, Laddick.
That was fun. I used to love going there. I used to love going there. Never paid $1, but drank and ate like I did. Somehow the bill got taken care of. I'm not positive who paid it, but I like those days. I miss those days, actually.
That was Bo. We took care of Bo.
Took care of Bo.
Questions, Bobby. I've got a few. I know you always have a ton. So this thing's taking place in Home Depot or Lowe's. Why can't we call it one of those? I mean, Home Mart. I guess what it came down to was look, we don't want to be associated with this movie. There's going to be the climactic killing scene, but we all know what it is. We're suspending disbelief. Why wouldn't Home Depot or Lowe's allow their name, image, and likeness, I guess, Bobby?
Maybe they don't want to pay for it. I don't know. But you would think just paying Home Depot for the right to use it is cheaper than rebranding all those Home Mart things. I don't know. It's a good question.
You answered my question about Robert and autism and OCD, so thank you for that. And you also you brought this up. He does get to Slavi, Teddy, and Pushkin pretty easily, right? I mean, maybe the worst one is he just kind of strolls into that restaurant and walks. They're all kind of like, how'd you get in here? I have that question too. How does he just walk in there?
And the henchmen are hiding the fact that he's bringing out his gun. Just bring out your gun and just point it right at his face. We're not who is this guy?
Yeah, and then the only other one I had was when he's becoming, this vengeance guy, and they get robbed. More on that guy later. He takes a hammer, uses it to do whatever he did to him, and then he puts it back, like he's wiping the blood off, and just puts it back on the shelf. So, Bob, you do a lot of home projects. Has that ever dawned on you that maybe some of these things you buy have been used in a murder?
He's an honorable guy. If he kept it and threw it away, it's just stealing. Plus, it's kind of like laundering money. Now, when I buy it and I get busted with that hammer, I get blamed for killing that guy for stealing that ring. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
No, but I've never thought the hammer that I just bought was used to maim somebody. No, I've never thought that. Yeah. Along that, my question: who robs a Home Depot? That whole scene. If this movie is 15 minutes too long, that leads to nothing. That guy is not part of the Russian mob. And who robs a Home Depot? Over under on cash in the Home Depot customer service line. $100.
You've brought this up. Yeah, you've brought this up on several heist movies and things like that. Just the opportunity to get cash out of anywhere is really, really low. And to your point, a Home Depot. I mean, there's lots of weapons in a Home Depot. What are you doing robbing that place?
I don't know. What happens to the price of oil after Creasy just blows up basically the whole Russian inventory? I think he did the American people a disservice. I mean, he blew up. I don't even know how to quantify how much oil, but the entire port of oil is gone and cannot receive any other oil. So I don't know if net that was the right thing to do. Do you?
Exceptional question. Yeah, I think the whole East Coast is shut down too. I mean, that port is basically useless. Robert
McCall spiking my gas prices are high because of Robert McCall. I don't like that. Why does Boston Sand and Gravel keep signing up for this? I mean, every time there's just a terrible scene in Boston, it happens in Boston Sand and Gravel, and that's a real place. You Google it and you can find it. Unlike Home Depot, who will not give them the permission, Boston Sand and Gravel's yup. Give us all the worst employees and the worst stories and put it right in our backyard. Who owns that place?
Well, that's typical for Boston, right? I mean, they're just yeah, get in there. That guy at Boston Sand and Gravel loves that.
So Creasy's only got he's got one dish. He's got a dish, a fork, a bowl. Why do me and you have so many dishes?
Well, yeah, lives pretty Spartan-like. I have wondered that. You know what also is really funny? Remember when Yetis first came out? It was like, oh my
It's got a
God, I got to
million
get
of
my
them.
hands on this thing. Now I have 2 full drawers in my kitchen
Just full.
of just random Yetis. Really insane.
Full. I don't know why. Why did the other girl prostitute lie to Slavi and Teddy that she didn't know that girl? It's okay if you know her. I mean, she gets herself killed. Just like, yeah, I know her. I don't know where she's at though. Why did she do that? I don't know why she did that. Are there any cops that are really this corrupt? I mean, I'm sure your friend group, more on this text thread, they love this movie because, man, do they hate the cops. But are cops really this corrupt? Do you think there's a cop as corrupt as the cops in this movie?
Yeah, you'd like to think not, but there's corrupt people in every line of work, so you'd have to assume there's a couple of bad eggs out there. I hope not.
What do they do with the money? Like, they can't just go buy a Lamborghini. They're a cop. They can't, like, what did they do with the extra money? Is the money really worth it? I don't know. Last thing, why does Pullman look like there's something up with him? I was watching this. I'm like, is Pullman the bad guy? But that's the next Equalizer 2. There's a bad guy within the organization. But I'm like, is Pullman hiding something? By the way, I put Paxton on here. I thought it was Bill Paxton, not Bill Pullman. Is Pullman hiding something?
He plays a bizarre part. It's almost like, why was he in it? Was he filming something else?
He's the first gentleman.
Oh, hey, Bill.
He's the first gentleman.
Come on over.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
He's just boozing while they're talking business. He just seems like he's along for the ride. I kind of like that.
Yeah. I love Whitmore.
Yeah. That's it. That's all I got.
All right, Bob. Rarely do we do this. A man versus a man. Man on Fire versus the Equalizer. John Creasy versus Robert McCall. This is Creed Stallone here.
No, it's not. This is what makes Man on Fire so good. I think in a fight, Creasy dusts this guy. I mean, that's how good Creasy. Listen, Robert McCall's great. We love him, but he's got morals and ethics. Creasy does not. Creasy loves that girl. That's about it. It's the only kind of civil thing he's got in his life. This guy McCall wants to be good. Creasy does not. Creasy waxes the floor with McCall.
There you have it. I love doing it. Bob, when is Man on Fire the last episode? We do Man on Fire and the podcast is done?
And it's done. I think we sail off into the sunset. Maybe. We've built it up so much. We've told the story before. One of your friends watched it and was like, it's good.
Yeah, it's sort of become a little bit mythical.
Yeah, it has.
At this point.
That's good.
Movie,
I think our thing is we never do it. We never do it. Yeah.
There you go.
Probably.
But I will say this, watching The Equalizer made me want to watch Man on Fire.
So good,
just because it's just a little bit better.
Just a little bit
All
better.
right. Let's hand out some awards. The Matthew McConaughey Award for the best scene stealer of the movie. Robert, where did you go?
I went with Andre. I love when they walk. The guy Andre is the one with the room of the money, and he's just he looks like he's hammered, drunk the way he's talking. And then he puts the gun in front of him, and McCall takes it from him. I love Andre, and the look on Andre's face when they open the door and he's in there in the cooler full of money. He's great. I love Andre.
I guess I have some questions about that too. So it's him and Hopper, from Stranger Things, come walking in there. I mean, why did Andre and his guys give up? Now, Creasy's got the gun pointed at his nether regions there.
Because they're soft.
And he's like, Andre, tell your men to... It seemed like, I don't know. They don't show it, probably because they can figure out how to do it. But that was an odd scene, correct?
You just shoot them. These are Russian mobsters stealing what looks like billions of dollars from somebody. You just kill Hopper and you kill Creasy and you just move on with your day. They're cutting meat back there. You just shoot both of them and put them in a cooler and just move on with your day. Like, you don't even think about it. I mean, I'm guessing that's the way Russian mobs. You got Pushkin. I mean, somebody's got to answer to Pushkin. I mean, yeah, I don't understand it.
That was a miss. And a billion seems light. Those were pallets and trillions, quadrillions. I mean, it was a lot of money back there. Bob, I had 2 finalists for my Scene Stealer Award. You got a Boston movie. I'm looking for Boston guys. 1, you got Marky Mark's brother, Bobby Wahlberg. He's Detective Harris. He's in there. I loved him. And then The Thief. We talked about the guy that robs the Home Depot, Bob. That's our guy, Owen Burke. That's Desmond from The Town. I think that's what I'm going with. I think I'm going with Desmond from The Town, stealing the Home Depot as my Scene Stealer Award. How about those 2 guys?
Fantastic. I thought you were going to steal one of my other winners. I'm glad you didn't. Those are good, though. Those are good.
All right, Bob. I've got a special award here
Oh
today.
no,
The
you didn't
best
tell me
parent,
about.
worst
You didn't tell
parent.
me about. Oh, you got a new name.
Well, no, got a new name. So look, Bob, we've been struggling. I think I'm ready to tell Deadpool to pound it, but famously in the Deadpool movie and in our podcast, he takes a crap all over Liam Neeson as being a good parent. We're like, well, geez, we love Deadpool. So we got to find a new one. And I've been throwing out some names here or there. Last week we did Mama Gump, Jim's dad from American Pie, Mufasa. None of them have really stuck. But Bobby, this week we lost a legend. James Earl Jones passed away. Rest in peace. Now, he is our Darth Vader award for worst parent, but we're going to let him be the best parent award. Bobby, the best parent award named for King Jaffe Joffer, the ruler of Zamunda. The best parent award, James Earl Jones. Bobby, what do you got?
Well, the best parent, I think, is Ralphie. I think Ralphie is, listen, he can take criticism. He can work really hard. At the drop of a hat, he gives up his dream of being a security guard. I got questions about Ralphie. Maybe set your sights a little higher than the security guard at the Home Mart. His mom's in trouble. He drops everything to go get her taken care of. I think Ralphie is the best parent.
Nice. I kind of went in the same general direction. I wanted to give it to our guy, President Whitmore, but there was not a lot of evidence. To your point, he's just kind of hanging out.
Yeah, it's just hanging out.
But I went with Ralphie's mom, Luz Sanchez.
Yeah.
You know, she seems like she's a pretty tough woman running a business there. She's getting taken advantage of by Marky Mark's brother. Creasy obviously takes care of that, gets the money back. She's got a business. So Luz Sanchez, Ralphie's mom.
Yeah.
The King Jaffe Joffer, ruler of Zamunda.
Yeah.
Best parent.
Yeah. Yeah. The Ralphie.
Award, the worst
Ralphie.
parent.
I've got it.
Yeah, Ralph.
I've got it. The worst parent is Little John in Boston Sand and Gravel. One, because he's the dumbest movie character I've ever seen. In no way, shape, or form does he have the upper hand. If Teddy walks into your office, basically from a private jet from the Kremlin, you don't run your mouth. You don't run your mouth. He's the dumbest person I've ever seen in a movie, and you can't be dumb. And you can't be dumb and be the best parent. Little John, and he gets his face. Does Little John die?
Wow, he is just in ICU at best.
Pulverized. He moves a little after the last boot to the face, but Little John, you can't be that dumb and be a good parent.
That's a good one. Yeah, that was a tough beat for the Boston Sand and Gravel. There was a lot of choices for this, but I went with Slavy. He seemed to be maybe the most despicable of the Russian gangsters, really treated the women poorly, but she could have gone in any direction. I like Little John, though.
Yeah.
All right, best parent, worst parent, eBay award, item from the movie that you would most want. Where are you going?
I think I want a Home Mart apron. Like you're barbecuing, and you put that on as like an apron, Home Mart. Somebody's gonna know that's like. Most people won't, but when somebody catches it, it'll be awesome.
1,000%. I want Home Mart gear. I want the hat. I want the shirt, the apron. I think that would be unbelievable. For a while there, it was like, McCall's watch.
Yeah.
Right? But who's going to know that that's the watch? The Home Mart gear.
Yes.
In fact, I may look for some of that. Home Mart would be great. Just like have it on in like the airport or a party, a hat, and just some guy look at you.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
Yep.
Just a knowing nod would be incredible. Quite a few bad decisions in this movie, Bob, and maybe my favorite award, the Terrence Howard Award for worst decision in the movie, could go anywhere. But who did you give it to?
We've already mentioned it. It's Little John. I mean, Little John, read the room. I mean, just read the room. Maybe you can make a stand, but you can't just completely make fun of the guy's entire country and think you're getting away. There's no world where he's getting away with saying that to Teddy. No way. No way.
No way. And he paid he paid the price.
He did.
Bob's big question. I love it. Robert McCall, John Creasy. We've got it all going on. Up to you.
Couldn't we just start Poz Tools? Meaning, there's Home Depot, there's Lowe's. They're the exact same building. It's the exact same tools. I know they have different brands, but I would drive past a Lowe's to go to a Home Depot, but not that far. Like I ain't going that far. So if a Poz Tools is a mile away from you in the Home Depot and Lowe's, and it's the exact same store. Now I know there's a lot of capital needed to inventory all that stuff. Isn't there room in the market for a third big box Hardware store?
Yeah, there's always a big three in life. And to your point, over the course of my life, whichever one is closer, I go to. And times that's been a Home Depot, times that's been a Lowe's. I don't, you say you defer. Like if it's 6 and 1/2 dozen, you're going to Home Depot. I've never done that. It's just, which is literally, I go to Lowe's now because I can turn right into it. The Home Depot requires me to take a left. And they're basically half a mile apart, but that's it.
But they're not close. Home Depot customer service, Lowe's is not great. That's in my. But Poz Tools would be amazing. It's a name and pride. It's a work in progress. The name. You ever read Moby Dick?
Ever ate or read?
Well, I don't think. Read. Gee, many Christmas. Where are you going with that? Have you ever read Moby Dick? If you were to, I'm not even going to go there. Have you ever read Moby Dick? Jeez.
I don't think so. I couldn't remember. We talked about this. If that was like a requirement somewhere, shape, or form in some academic class, reading Moby Dick. But I feel like I know the story, but I don't know, Bob, that I've read that.
So I looked up. So Creasy is reading the 100 books you should read because his wife said you should do it. I looked up. I Googled the 100 greatest books of all time. I'm going to give you the top 10, and you tell me how many you've read of these. The Kite Runner, Great Gatsby, Heart of Darkness, Animal Farm, Christmas Carol, The Wind in the Willows, The Help, All Quiet on the Western Front, Of Mice and Men, and number 1, To Kill a Mockingbird.
5 of those, and I've seen the movie All's Quiet on the Western Front, so maybe that counts. I guess half. That's shocks.
You've read 5 of these? Name them.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Gatsby was one.
You read
To Kill a Mockingbird. Okay.
Of Mice
and Men. What were the others?
All Quiet on the Western Front?
No.
The Help?
Movie. Nope.
The Wind in the Willows?
Nope.
Christmas Carol?
Yes.
You've read it, not watched the Bill Murray Scrooged. You've read it.
Yes.
Okay. Animal Farm?
5.
No, that's not 5. Great.
Maybe 4.
Okay.
Maybe I was just writing numbers down.
Okay.
So 3. Yeah. 4. Yeah. There you go.
Good.
And a movie.
Good.
Pretty good.
That's really good. That's really good. And I remember on the last one of these, I think the Tom Cruise podcast, you said, I looked for in the book of 100 books, no Da Vinci Code, no The Firm, which I think you said were the 2 greatest books of all time.
Yeah, love those.
Does any prostitute want to be a prostitute? Just seems like they're always in a really bad mental state. Is there anybody that's like, heck yeah, I got a job on, Main and First as a hooker and I'm pumped about it? No, I don't.
What a question. There's got to be. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know either. That's why it's part of Bob's big questions. How much money would you need to disappear? So she, you just what she's got to do is she's got to leave Slavy, and if she gets in a car and drives to Iowa, Slavy's not following her. How much money do you need if you're a 18-year-old girl or whatever, how old she is? How much money do you need to go to Iowa and start a new life?
Well, assuming you had a car, you probably don't need that much. A couple $100 of gas would get you all the way there.
I don't think she's got a car. I mean, but a bus. I mean,
a bus. Yeah, bus. Probably not too much.
Couple $1,000.
Yeah, right. I mean, she had 9,800, correct?
Well,
that's enough to disappear for a period of time.
No,
right?
For sure. But she's already out of the. All of her buses are dead. She doesn't need the $9,800 now. She needed the $9,800 back. That's another. Why didn't Creasy just give her the $9,800 and said, "Hey, here's a bus ticket to Iowa. Just go away." That might have. Mm-hmm. Now we have no movie if that happens.
Yeah.
But okay. So Creasy gets shot or cut, and he basically services himself in the bathroom with honey. Didn't know you could do that. So this is a serious question. If you're cut really bad right now, you cut yourself with a box cutter on your thigh, you're not going to die. Talk me through how you'd fix yourself if you had no phone and nobody could help you. What would you do? What would you do to fix yourself?
Yeah, the honey thing was shocked me. I immediately go to the hydrogen peroxide and like rub it, just try to clean that thing out. It's always my first move when I cut myself.
What was that
I
red?
guess
What was the red stuff Mom used to use? Horse.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. You knew the pain was coming,
Oh
but
my
man,
gosh.
it was just, it really, really would take care of you. And then I'm assessing if I need stitches or not. So I'm just kind of like got the paper towels, just kind of clamp down on that sucker. If it's bad but not stitch worthy, I'm doing the duct tape.
Yeah.
Seal that thing up together.
Tape,
That's pretty much my move.
Yeah, you couldn't shove like super glue in there. I think that would be good. That wouldn't be good for you, sticking super glue in there.
No.
Mark, move your microphone a little. People want to see your face. Move your microphone a little bit so it's not. Move it over.
Sorry.
Yeah, there you go. People want to see your face. So you're a cop. You're corrupt. You shave a couple $1,000s a week from the local bodega. What do you do with that money? You can't do anything cool with it because then people know you're corrupt, or they just not care. What is he doing with that extra money?
Yeah, I don't think they care, right? To your point, they're corrupt, dirty cops. Maybe they use it to gamble.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They let it ride on the Eagles. Yeah, or the Patriots.
Celtics. Patriots.
Yeah. So Robert McCall, a lot of his beef is the way they disrespect that badge. If I secretly added Robert McCall to our text thread, what do you think he would think about some of your friends and their views on the cops?
He probably wouldn't like that very much. A lot of controversy lately. Look, here on the PozCast, I back the blue. 100%.
Just do what you're told. That's pretty good. All right, you've got last one. It's you versus another man. You're in Home Depot. What tool do you go with as your weapon?
That nail gun seemed pretty impressive.
But that doesn't work. The safety on a nail gun is it has to be pressed against something to shoot a nail out. You can't just be shooting nail guns like bullets.
Well, I guess you've just eliminated the show.
He probably knows how to do something to make it. But if we were building that deck and I pointed a nail gun and pulled the trigger, there's not a nail flying at 70,000 miles an hour at you. Like, that's not happening.
It was a great tool, not just for building that deck, was that thing which screwed it in, where you push down.
That's
and screwed.
The weapon you want? I'm going to beat your ass with anything. I mean, that's a terrible one.
A hammer.
Yeah, but then it's close quarters. Like,
a chainsaw? I feel like a chainsaw.
So heavy. I think I'd be able to maneuver around. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a tough question.
A machete? What a machete?
Probably. You want to keep your distance and you want to inflict as much pain as you can. Yeah. All right. That's it. That's all for Bob's big ones.
Love it. The Rudy Sack Award. Most emotional moment of the movie. I think there's an obvious one here, Bob, but you never know. You tend to zig when you should zag.
For some reason, the one that was I was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome, is when they're in the Home Depot, all the lights are off, and he hangs the guy with the barbed wire and then throws the concrete so it strings him up, and he's just on the top level of there, just staring at him as he dies. It's just, one, how did he scale up there? That ain't that easy. Two, there's a lot of questions on how you get the barbed wire, all this stuff, but he's just staring at him as he dies. That was a pretty cool moment.
That is a good one. The whole final scene is probably where you're choosing from. Look, the sprinklers are pouring down. It's like amazing. A hurricane.
It's amazing.
That home mart. It's the final scene, the final confrontation. We've been waiting for him and Teddy to get it on, and the music's pumping. He just comes around that corner and just starts ripping nails into him. To your point, which apparently can happen, but that's where I went. I was like,
it was like 9-inch nails type of music. It was just like, it was incredible. The rain and him slow motion was a little much, maybe just a little much, but it was very, very cool. Very good.
What saves the scene is there's no dumb quote there, right? Like back in the 80s, this would have had a stick around, nailed you. Yeah. This would have had some sort of Schwarzenegger Stallone commentary right here. He doesn't. He just pumps him full of nails and leaves.
Yeah, Ralphie comes out of that security office and is like, man, Mr. McCall, you really nailed him. Yeah, that would be something like that.
Exactly. Which pivots into the final award or final question, I guess. Does the movie need a different ending? Now, admittedly, ChatGPT really struggled here. It's just different ways of killing him or letting him off or things like that. Here's my question. The movie doesn't need a different ending. I mean, ultimately, he was going to kill Teddy. I didn't, I forgot that he went all the way to Moscow, just la-las into the mansion, kills Pushkin. My question is, what happens the next day at Home Mart, right? Like we see a couple months later and McCall's just cruising around town. I mean, his buddies have all witnessed what's gone down. This Home Mart he's laid waste to Home Mart. There's 5 or 6 dead bodies in there. There's a hurricane went whipping through. What's the next couple of days like there?
It's a great question. I'd love that sequel. Him just, all of his buddies know now he is John Rambo incarnate. I just don't know how you could take him seriously or just not ask him a million questions after that. I think he's got to go get a new job. He's got to go move on. He obviously, moving Creasy takes about 1 duffel bag. He travels lightly, so he probably has to start a new life somewhere else.
Yeah, I feel like
what about this ending, Mark? He's there with Pushkin and he says he wants peace. He says, killing me, what will that do for you? Peace. And Pushkin says, I can buy peace. What's your price? And he just goes, 100 million. And he takes the money. He just lets Pushkin live, takes the money.
That'd be great.
Little zig.
But sadly, we don't get that. All right. Hall of Fame plaques. I don't have many here. We're just going to hand out 2 to the director and Denzel, because that's really what you got here. So Antoine Fuqua, winner of the award earlier mentioned, he's got Training Day. He's got The Equalizer. I'm going to go Training Day just because that's an unbelievable movie and it won some awards. And it's just a more serious, better version of this, Bob. But any other options than those 2, or where are you going with for the director?
No, I would watch this 100 times out of 100 before I'd watch Training Day. I love Training Day. Training Day is very, very high. This was ranked like 112th. I forgot to say that. This is ranked 112th on our list of movies. And Training Day is obviously higher than that. But I would watch this, but it's Training Day.
Which brings us to Denzel, the only guy other than you and I, Bobby, to have appeared on every PozCast episode. We love Man on Fire. We love John Creasy. You've referred to him as John Creasy throughout the last hour or so. Training Day. I mean, do you picture him as that? Malcolm X. Weird reason I kind of think of him a lot as that. Man on Fire. Remember the Titans? Herman Boone. He's kind of got that American gangster look is really, really good for him. You could go Flight. You go 1,000 different directions here. I think ultimately, I think of him in Training Day. I don't know why that just sort of picture of him just King Kong ain't got nothing on me kind of thing. Just that angry, cool, maniacal Denzel, I think goes on my Hall of Fame plaque for him. But I'm guessing, Bobby, Creasy makes an appearance here for you.
Yeah, and specifically the scene when he's got that guy, that crooked Colombian cop or whatever he is, taped to that car, and he inserts that thing, and he says, I wish you had more time. That's Denzel Washington. John Creasy, that's Denzel Washington.
Another good one that I forgot to mention is the boom meme, where you just see him go boom, or the my man. Denzel, to the point, is just such a cool guy. A lot of cool memes.
Very, very cool.
Coming out of him. Denzel, what a guy. Glad we finally did a movie of his. Time for your Hall of Fame plaques, Bobby.
Yeah, troubled single badass guy movies. There's Wick, Rambo, Equalizer, Man on Fire, Falling Down, and Taken. Along this, before you answer that, have you heard this Rebel Ridge is supposed to be pretty cool, this Netflix movie?
Yeah, getting a lot of comps to First Blood.
Blood.
Come on, I'm all in for that.
Yeah, I'm going to watch
it. So for that reason, I think First Blood is the OG of all of this, and that movie is unbelievable. Going First Blood.
I saw some meme or something come across, one of our text messages where the Michael Douglas falling down, and all guys our age are like, I've never understood this movie more than right now. Kind of my thought, I'm just getting crotchety. That's just a crotchety dude that he just gets pushed way too far. Dad loved that.
That's you.
Dad,
you're the guy.
No, I'm not going to turn into him. But I think I did this on the Rounders podcast, but as I was doing, I think I've done this before. My favorite word for no in different language. Didn't I do this for Rounders? Because niet.
Oh, niet.
Niet is a real good one. Nine, non, nej, hahir, nai, tadak, ni, nu, kwang. Best foreign no. Is it still niet?
It is. I think niet is the all-timer.
Yeah. Russian Mobsters, same. We've done this before, but we know everybody doesn't listen to every podcast, so we'll just act like this is the first time we've done it. Hall of Fame plaque for Russian Mobster. You got Viggo from John Wick. You got Viggo Mortensen from Eastern Promises, which I think you voted for before. You've got Teddy, who, great job. Teddy's a great bad guy in this movie. And I was like, why didn't he have a better career? His IMDb, he's got a lot of films. I mean, he was in a lot of the movies I've seen. I don't even know. I don't even remember him, but he was a really good bad guy. So you got Viggo from Wick, Viggo Mortensen, Eastern Promises, Teddy from Equalizer, Teddy KGB from Rounders, and Boris the Blade from Snatch. Best Russian mobster.
Yeah, I think it's still our guy Viggo from Eastern Promises. Which, where do you come down on that movie? That movie's unbelievable. That, you know, now that you know what happens, you know, spoiler alert, there's a twist. It's harder to watch now. But man, I feel like the first time I watched it, I was like, oh man, like when you realize what's going on.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. It's on I think it's on our list somewhere. I think it's lower, but it's on our list. But best books dudes have actually read. So I only have 3. It's the Da Vinci Code, it's The Firm, and Jurassic Park. I think those are the 3 most common books that guys our age and who are listening to this pod, it's sad to say, have actually read. What's the best book ever of books dudes have actually read?
Those are great. I think The Firm, because it was such a phenomenon, and it was at a time where you didn't have all this TV and technology, right? I think the Da Vinci Code, you were starting to get into that. Well, I guess Jurassic Park was even earlier than that. I would say The Firm it was really, really cool. I think you kind of knew Tom Cruise was going to be in it. So that kind of made it good. But I'd go The Firm, Bob. What about you?
I think it's the Da Vinci Code, but The Firm was a little earlier. And the Da Vinci Code, you're right, it's kind of like the last book that every single person read and everybody had in their laps on a plane or whatever the case may be. I think that's the one. Sadly, not on the 100 books you should read. Maybe it was 101, right behind whatever. All right, last one for this movie in particular, the best kill. So the Hall of Fame plaque for the best kill of the Equalizer movie, you've got the corkscrew. The corkscrew through the bottom of the chin. You've got the shot glass in his eyeball, and then he's going through the autopsy picture. He's got this big hole right there. You've got the nail gun, which the whole scene is pretty good. The hanging with the barbed wire attached to the box of cement, that's a good one. The glass to the neck of the guy, the big meathead guy that he fights for 30 minutes and they can't find him. They're making all this noise. I don't know how he's just not dead after that one because they find him. Yeah. Or the one that's the most improbable kill ever. So a guy's walking through the Home Depot and he gets stabbed with the limb cutter. Now, that's impossible because that thing bends like you can't imagine. You can't, it's just there's no way it would enter the guy's. First of all, it doesn't have that sharp of a point. All the jagged edges are where you do the damage on the limbs, but it goes right through his throat like a horror movie. What wins? What's the Hall of Fame plaque for best kill in this movie?
Well, to that point, you know where he takes the screwdriver into the guy's back of the head? There's no way that.
Oh, the drill.
Either, right?
Yeah, I write that? Yeah, come on. It would wrap your hair in it. It'd just be annoying. It's not making through the skull with no pressure from. Does he feel it and he just pushes back on it so the drill goes in his head? I mean, come on, that wasn't great.
Yeah, that was bad. Of those that you gave, that nail gun thing I think is really cool. Now, I guess you can't. It's probably good that you can't do that because somebody would have shot themselves or something.
That's correct.
With the nail gun. But let's just assume McCall, he's got special skills, knows how to disable the governor. Type of thing on that. That's a really cool. That was the best kill in my opinion.
Yeah, that's it. That's all for Hall of Fame plaques. You won.
Great. It's always nice to get a win. All right, the MVP. This is probably silly to even ask you, Bob, but the MVP of the Equalizer.
Yes, Little John. He survived. I looked it up. He survived, so he's the MVP of that beating. No, it's Denzel. It's Creasy. It's Robert McCall. Whatever you want to call him.
Yeah, Denzel in a runaway. He just owns this entire thing. Look, how great is it to do a Denzel movie? This guy, I think, is the coolest guy. Bob will need a Hall of Fame plaque on that at some point. Coolest guy on screen, on camera. And what a dude, right? I mean, Denzel looked like a guy you could hang out with, Bob. I think. I think we did that on the Ocean's 11 pod. Like, could you hang out with any of these guys? I feel like Denzel's just a dude, right?
Seems like he wouldn't be good at golf, though. I think that's a prerequisite of hanging out. Just seems like he'd be a little too serious. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Yeah, I'd like to hang out with him. Denzel, if you're listening, let's hang out. Get on the pod.
Let's do it. Bobby, this has been a blast. I enjoyed it as always. Until next time, this has been the PozCast.
See you, bro.